Okay, so welcome everybody who is joining. My name is Rachel Balkovic, and I am the Latin American Strength and Conditioning Coordinator for the Houston Astros. And I am sitting here with Chris Joyner, who's the Major League Strength and Conditioning Coordinator for the Blue Jays. And this is true life strength and conditioning professional baseball. I am in the Dominican Republic at a academy that houses 85 players, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I have spotty Wi-Fi, and Mr. Joyner here is joining us from the dugout in Baltimore, so he also has some spotty internet. So if it cuts out, we apologize, but this is like as true as it gets in the world of strength and conditioning. Kind of just got to make do with what you got. But I'll just go ahead and let you jump in and introduce yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Hey, Rachel, it's a pleasure. Yeah, sorry we didn't get a chance to hook up in spring training. As you know, it's kind of crazy time of year, but happy to connect here on the fly. Currently in Baltimore. As you 12 games of the season indoors, so we haven't seen daylight for a while on 3 different surfaces too. And then once we get back to Toronto, we're another 16 games inside. So it's nice to be out here and touch base with you guys as well. So like Rachel said, I'm Chris Joyner, the Major League Strength and Conditioning Coordinator for the Blue Jays. From a small town in Reddick, Florida. It's just between Ocala and Gainesville, so you have Gator Country, horse farm capital of the world as well. So. Born and raised in Florida, went to school at Minnesota State University in Mankato, graduated in 2001, and entering my 15th year here in baseball.
That is awesome. Okay, so I have a lot of questions for you just based off of the fact that you've been in the game for so long. I think that's amazing. But first and foremost, I kind of did a little stalking on you, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about your sport coaching and kind of how that either segued into strength and conditioning or where that fit into your whole path. And then kind of just reflecting on what the differences are and why you chose strength and conditioning.
Yeah, just going into my summer year of high school, never played football before. I was kind of a smarter kid growing up, and so my mom taught at the high school that I went to, and the head coach at the time said, your son's going to be our quarterback. So I kind of didn't really have a choice, and so just kind of dove right into football, played soccer and baseball growing up, but wanted to play football. My mom would never let me because she didn't want me to get hurt. So I guess I was able to make that decision in high school. But nevertheless, we always had summer workouts going into that football season, and that's where I really got involved in strength and conditioning. One of our coaches that was brand new had just graduated from Minnesota State, actually, and was All-American linebacker there, and just kind of got us into, working out, and it was awesome. Obviously, at first you're making big time strength gains and you're loving it, but just kind of understanding the purpose and running and just doing all those kind of things that I think we all take bits and pieces of and do today. So that was kind of my initial involvement with strength and conditioning, and like I said, a 3-sport athlete, and so obviously all those seasons kind of ran into each other, and just kind of understanding the importance of staying in shape and different shape for different sports was kind of interesting too, kind of making that transition. So I was a busy kid growing up, busy in high school. My mother, like I said, was a teacher for 34 years, and so after I graduated college, I went back to coach at my high school. So I coached football, baseball, and weightlifting as well. And so I think it was important for me because obviously I grew up in that atmosphere to kind of be a teacher, to kind of be a coach, and just really, give back to my high school, which a lot of the student athletes did where I went to school, which is pretty cool to kind of come back into the fold and to kind of give back, things that we were taught in high school and competition, weightlifting, stuff like that. Or a little bit different these days, and so I just kind of wanted to share my knowledge that I learned, in college and playing football in college as well, and just kind of give back to the community. So after coaching for about a year and a half, got the opportunity to get into baseball. I saw an internship. I think Gabe mentioned that on the last interview on the NSCA's website. For the Toronto Blue Jays, right down the street, a couple of hours in Dunedin. I was living in Ocala at the time, so it was a short drive down there to interview. Didn't really know what I was getting myself into, and we were kind of at a makeshift facility because our new facility was being built down there at the time. And so I went down and met Donna Masanis, who are head of strength and conditioning right now with us, and it was basically gave me the in-season manual and said one of our current strength and conditioning interns, because we had just kind of started that program was like a training room intern out in Medicine Hat, and so he had to pass his ATC test in order for me to get the position. So we had a lot of confidence in him. He's our AAA trainer right now, and thanks to Boone for that, we had no doubt that he would do it. And so I basically drove down for a day, met with Donovan, and kind of saw how spring training ran, not ever being in the business. And I got the in-season manual, and he said, "I'll see you in Auburn, New York," which is our short season team. Our first year in the Penn League there, brand new team. Brand new strength coach. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I went by the book, and it was kind of learning on the fly, which a lot of us have to do in this gig. And so short season A-ball there, new guys out of the draft in the organization. And then we also had our AAA team in Syracuse at the time, which is about 30 minutes up the road. And so what I was able to do is when Syracuse was at home and Auburn was going to go on the road, I would go to Syracuse. And if Syracuse was out of town and I was still in Auburn, I went on the road with Auburn. So I kind of got to experience guys that would tell you could tell to do anything in the world, and they jump off a building for you. And guys at AAA, and we all know that level, with all due respect, where there's a lot of guys that were in the big leagues, want to get to the big leagues, or that situation, and guys that are just like, come on, man, I'm not doing this today. So Donovan shows up. We go to AAA, and we got half the guys aren't stretching. I don't know what to do. I'm like, man, if they're not listening to our minor league coordinator, how the heck are they going to listen to me, when he leaves? And so we got 10 sprints today, and, position players are all ho and hum and doing all this stuff. And they just kind of like jog out to second base. And I go, oh my God, can't wait to get back to Auburn. But so I got to kind of see, guys that would do anything and everything from day one to guys that, you gotta work on. I think that AAA level is really tough. But long story short, 2.5 months on the job. I got a call. I just wanted to come back and be a full season guy. The next year, Donovan was beginning the internship program. And at the time, we were kind of in a transition phase with our former Major League strength coach. And so Donovan said, "Hey, the minor league coordinator position's open. I want you to interview." And I'm like, man, there's no way. I'm 2.5 months on the job. This guy barely knows me. And so I interviewed. I think it was in November. He called me driving home from Wisconsin, Thanksgiving. And I interviewed first part of December for the minor league coordinator, and ended up getting a call on my birthday saying I got it and had to move down to Tampa. So that's kind of the fast and the furious route of where I started. I was a minor league coordinator for 4 years, had the opportunity to go to the Milwaukee Brewers for 4 years as a major league guy. I did that for 4 years, and then kind of basically came back to an assistant in Toronto to my old position as the minor league coordinator. Had our first baby, we're away from home, and I always told my wife if baseball got in the way, I would always choose my family. So we're at a point where we had to make a decision. So Donovan hired me again, and obviously thankful for my time in Milwaukee, but we just had to make a decision for me to be home, to be there for a support system. And so was back as an assistant to my old position for about 3 years, and then had the opportunity to be promoted back to the major leagues in 2014. So ALS championship after that, the rest is history. So here we are in Baltimore.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I think I have like 10 questions, so I'm just going to write a couple down. And along with, I'm always like so fascinated because I'm still a young strength coach in this field. I mean, young strength coach in general, but especially baseball. I'm only in my 4th season, and I've already seen major growth across the league in every area, and so I'm always fascinated to hear like the stories a little bit like of people who have been in the game for a long time. And like I have a lot of admiration for a guy like Donovan who built something from scratch and had nothing to work with. And we think we have nothing to work with, but 15 years ago when you first started, it was nothing. And like you just said, you were rookie league strength coach, and then also you were AAA strength coach, and like having to work all of those things is like a blessing and a curse. Obviously, it's difficult at the time, but obviously that helped you a ton with your overall career and your fast growth in the field. Can you give us a few like points of emphasis on, like you told me a story before we got on the call about a guy who came full circle and just the whole evolution of strength and conditioning in baseball, and how a couple of things of how you've seen it evolve and change over the years?
Yeah, when I was down meeting Donovan for the first time as our new facility was being built at the time, so 2001, 2002. First guy I met was Orlando Hudson, the O-Dog. I haven't talked to him in a while, but O-Dog, if you're listening, how you doing, buddy? So he came out with Donovan. I guess he was getting some treatment, and introduced ourselves, and I guess he was the first professional baseball player, I guess, that I had met. he called us Jerk. So he's like, "Hey man, what's up, Jerk?" So we
Great
were all
first
known as Jerk.
impression. Great first
Yeah,
impression.
exactly. So, yeah, so I got to meet the old dog, and he was going through some stuff with our former GM at the time, and ended up being, I guess, sent down to AAA. And so where I met him, obviously, when I was there in AAA, obviously a guy on the cusp of being in the big leagues, great fielder, switch hitter, all the tools in the world. Just had to kind of wait his time, and so you know, he was one of those guys that's like, "Oh, CJ, I'm so sore, I cannot stretch today." And if you're sore, that's the reason you need to stretch. Oh, and so, you know, he would do it. You know, he's just kind of one of those guys that great personality, fun to be around. Always bringing the energy and things like that. I wouldn't say a big lifter, but did what he needed to, obviously to maintain and stay on the field, playing every day. But I was in Toronto, I believe, meeting up with Donovan at the time and eating at the restaurant out in center field, and all of a sudden I see a player come out and he's on the line and he's got the stretch bands and everything going. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? And it ended up being Orlando Hudson. So somewhere along the way, I guess we had some kind of impact on him. But no, we've come a long way, and just, you know, we always reflect, and I keep going back to Donovan. He's one of my best friends, and we've been in this game together for a long time, and to help build this program that we have going over here. We just look back sometimes on the programs that we've written, and we're just like, oh my God, man, there was a lot of machine-based stuff, which we're not saying bad or good and different, but, you know, our weight rooms used to be filled with machines. Now we don't have enough room and can't get all the machines out of there. Mm-hmm. That's just kind of a philosophy change, which I think you've seen in other organizations as well. Is, you know, we just need space to move around. You know, I think it's important to, along the way, like we have, is to reflect and reshape that, you know, philosophy that you have, and so you can progress to new things. You know, we don't always change for change's sake, but I think there's a time and a place where you have to progress and evolve. And I think our industry has done a ton of that
Yes.
over the last few years. You know, it's definitely a top-down approach where, you know, what we are doing in the big leagues is something that we should be doing in the minor leagues. And so no matter what level that you guys, the guys get to, I'm a little bit more individualized with respect to programming and things like that as we get to know the athletes. But I'd say getting away from that cookie-cutter approach that we've had to do, honestly, because of so many numbers of guys in the minor leagues and in Latin America. And there's a time and a place, I think, for that too. But just, you know, that top-down approach, I think, is really important because the players need to see that consistency at all levels. I think a couple of years before I came back to Toronto to begin to implement, and I was looking into before I left Milwaukee, is the functional movement screen in the FMS. And I think just, you know, that was a game changer, I think, for us, just because we needed a way to screen the guys and to really look at movement. And when I came back, we were screening a guy from the Dominican, you know, overhead squat, couldn't do it. Game of correction, couldn't do it, fell off the board, and we're like, oh my God, man, this kid is jacked up. We have a lot of work to do, right? And so as soon as he left the screen, he went right over to the squat rack, and we're like, there's no way this kid can squat under load. And I think that's when we really had our aha moment at the time, is like, these guys have to earn their right to lift or to be in certain lift. Certainly, obviously, you know, he could do a squat pattern, but he's going to have to be loaded in a different way, maybe given a correction. But, you know, a back squat for him on that particular day is not going to happen. There was plenty of work to do. So I think just, you know, learning to focus not on movement, but movement quality, you know, and to steal one of Greg Cook's lines, and that we realize we have to move well before we move more under load. And that was just a huge evolution, I think, for us on the strength and conditioning side, where, you know, to have a foam roller in the weight room or in the training room was like, I mean, you just, you know, propped your head on it, propped a foot up or something that you were getting worked on, to you know, guys grabbing that as one of the first things they do as a soft tissue tool when they get into the weight room today. And so it's one of those things where a few years ago we challenged each other to take certain things out on the line, and we put together this little recovery bag, and we had a foam roller. So it was like, I think it was in Tampa opening day, that I don't know if we were the first team, but we had a foam roller on the line for stretch, you know, pregame, which was probably unheard of back in the day. And our challenge from Donovan this year was we've been doing some Indian club work over here, is to have a major league guy pre-game do some Indian clubs, and so we knocked that out in Tampa as well on the first day. So
Very nice. No, that's
yeah.
I love that. Like, well, first of all, that's a lot of things that you've talked about is, you guys are leading the way, and you are like, I essentially like pioneers in the field. There's a bunch of guys that have been in strength and conditioning in baseball for a while now, and I consider them pioneers of like pushing things forward. And like you just said, even have a foam roller on the sideline, like that's something that's a little bit different. And so, and it's gradual change, and it's a bunch of little things that then add up to a culture change.
Yeah.
So, so you mentioned you're doing Indian clubs. Is there anything else that you guys can contribute to, any strength coaches out there that might be listening, wondering about baseball strength and conditioning, and any sort of concepts that you want to throw out there for us?
I can't give away all my secrets.
I know.
No, I think there's just been a huge shift to recovery in season. I always kind of joke around that we're strength coaches, but I think in season we're really recovery specialists, and so really nailing trends in fatigue, trends in recovery, soft tissue work pre and post, things like that, whether it's massage or things that guys can do on their own, whether it's supernova balls, rollers, sticks, anything and everything that we can use, whether it's in the dugout, set up a room next to it, depending on what your facility is to always have those little things around. Yep. It's not to say that the trainers or the massage therapists or other practitioners, PTs, can't work on you, but I think ultimately the goal would be to empower the players to be able to do that. And like I said, we put together some recovery bags for the guys over the last few years, and they can take that bag with them to the hotel rooms on the road. And I know we have quite a few guys that will take advantage of that back at the hotel at night before they go to bed, just to kind of decompress, give it another, not that we're always preaching soft tissue, but we are. Let's be honest, we're in a sport that's an overused sport. And I think the more we can educate our players on that, and anything we can do to aid in recovery, from a food standpoint, from a soft tissue standpoint, from a meditation standpoint, breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, all that type of stuff, a little bit of yoga, meditation, excuse me.
Okay, so you've mentioned a ton about like evolving, and I had an opportunity to speak at the NSA conference in San Antonio this year, and I talked about getting into baseball, and the one thing that I hit on was a lot of people are turned off by getting into baseball, strength and conditioning, because, it's not the best pay, or it's not the best career, or, it's just, there's not a lot of things that can improve. But I look at that as a huge opportunity, and I mentioned getting into an emerging field. Like, you have to realize that baseball strength and conditioning is a lot different than collegiate strength and conditioning, because that's been around for a lot longer. But I think that it's a great opportunity to get into baseball strength and conditioning now because of things like you being in rookie ball and then going to be a minor league coordinator. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for fast growth, and you're going to see fast growth in the field. And even though it may not be the perfect situation now, you get to be a part of making it a better situation, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, and like you said, there's opportunities. I think I wouldn't say tough to get into. I'd say it is a little bit tougher now that a lot of teams are going to full-time positions, because we do want to retain staff that we've trained and kind of grown up in our organization. But at the same time, I think, as we add, whether it's, paid internships, I think most of those are now. They're not unpaid like they used to be, or for very little. And I'm sure you've heard, and you have the same answer from every strength coach. If you try to get rich in this business, it's probably not going to happen if you're fortunate enough to get to the playoffs every year. Like some teams do. Hopefully we'll go on that run here too. But that's not really why we get into it. Obviously, it's a bonus because we all do have families we want to take care of, and student loans probably to pay off as well. But I think the most rewarding thing is you get to work with the best athletes in the world at what these guys do, and to be a part of kind of going through the minor league system, even though I was kind of on the fast track, is you're working with guys that come up through the system, and you've seen teams have to develop from within, and you do need quality strength coaches at each one of those levels along the way. And to be able to see athletes that you work with ultimately get on TV.
I'm laughing because I can hear the chopper in the background. Like.
Yeah, we've got choppers and all kinds of things, probably planes flying over as well. But to be a part of that growth and development, and to see those guys that you've worked with and had a hand on get to the big leagues, I think is truly rewarding. So we've had guys in the past come down on their own, and sleep in the car, do what they have to do to kind of have the opportunity, and then you have other people that are begging and pleading, and it's like, look, man, you gotta put in your time, you gotta clean the machines, you gotta sweep the sheds like the All Blacks say, and put in your time, and and hopefully you'll get rewarded. And I always tell our guys just to put yourself in that position to get the promotion, whether it's another team looking for a full-time coordinator, major league, minor league guy, whatever it is that you've got to put in the time. It may happen in 2.5 months like it did for me, or it may happen 15 years down the line. It just depends on what you want to do, and you got to put in your time. So that's my advice, is just to don't get in it for the money for sure, but get in it because you have a passion for teaching and coaching and educating the best athletes in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I would completely agree with that. I obviously, if you are listening to this video, you're probably a strength and conditioning coach, and so you already know this about the field in some ways. But I do, at times, I talk to at least one college student a week wanting to get into strength and conditioning, and sometimes I'll hear, well, I don't know, I want to get a paid internship, and I'm like, look, it may not happen that way. That's great if you can find that, but it might not happen that way. And you just have to realize, like any setting of strength and conditioning, baseball is the same way, that you have to be passionate about it. You have to love to do it in order to, basically, be willing to sacrifice what you just talked about. And also just embrace the fact and enjoy the fact that you're getting to be part of a fast evolving field, and a field that is going to grow like wildfire in the next few years, as it already has in the past decade. So I think it's really cool to see all the positive changes in professional baseball strength and conditioning, and it's cool to hear about like your stories, of how far it's already come. So I love just being a part of that aspect of it. I'll close it out with give us a good minor league story. Kind of give us something from the Penn League that you had that happened, or something you can think about that was pretty entertaining, or something that people wouldn't necessarily expect to happen. I'm sure you have a lot of them.
I think it's just the day-to-day travel on a bus. Not that I did it for very long, so I can't say I grinded it out, and I don't want to do that, because I know there's some guys that do. But just the difference in hotels and the conditions that you have to be in. Obviously, the big leagues is a lot better, and it's part of the growing up process. But nothing too crazy. I think it's just you get that different breed of guy, here and there. I got to work with Trevor Hoffman in Milwaukee for a couple of years, and he's got some tricks up his sleeve, so we won't mention it here. No, it's a sport. I think every team's got a guy, whether it's in the major leagues or the minor leagues, that does some different stuff, crazy stuff. Just listening to the stories of Bob Uecker from Milwaukee. I mean, that guy, I've never heard the same story twice. He remembers every single thing. The stories, of the old school. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So it's a game rich in not only history on the field, but off the field, with pranks and things like that. I think just to keep it loose, we do play such a long season. We all do become a family, because we see each other more than we do our families in most cases. And so you've got to kind of have that comic relief just to kind of break up the monotony and things like that. So I don't have any super cool stories.
What you just said though is I think baseball is special in that way because it's every day too. Where you have the NFL guys get to go home at times during the week, and it's kind of, I don't want to say it's normal by any means, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but baseball is every damn day. So you don't really get a break, and you're right, the comic relief is just, it's every day. You have to keep it light, and definitely some funny things that maybe you can't share happen behind the scenes, but I like that aspect as well, is that it does become your family because you're around each other 24/7 every single day, and you can't help it. I'll just kind of close out in saying I really appreciate, I know you are slammed right now, and I so much appreciate you coming on and talking to us for the benefit of strength coaches out there who are wanting to know a little bit about your life. And this is your life. You're sitting in a dugout. There's a Bank of America. This is great advertisement for Bank of America right now, by the way. It's right in the background. So this is your life. You're in a dugout. There's helicopters flying over the top. We've basically been trying to get this together for a month because your schedule is so ridiculous, and so is mine. So I really appreciate you coming on and doing this video with us so we can share it with everyone out there. And you just take care and have a lovely afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. It's my pleasure.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Bye.